Hi, this is Kirk, the Bariatric Carnivore. Well, let me ask you a question. Is bariatric surgery right for you? Well, let's consider a few things. Number one, I am going to assume that you're morbidly obese. This is not something that you do lightly because you want to lose 10 to 20 pounds. This is for people that are seriously overweight to the point where it becomes a real health deficit. Number two, do you have insurance? And if so, prepare to jump through about 6 months of hoops in order to get approved for the surgery. See, in order to get approved for the surgery, you've got to do a pretty strict low-calorie diet for maybe 6 months. I think in most cases what they're doing is they're just trying to get people to get frustrated and give up in the process so the insurance companies can get off the hook, because it's about a $20,000 process if you pay for it out of pocket. So if you just went over to a surgeon and said, I want to have bariatric surgery and I want to pay for it, it's about a $20,000 job if you do it in the US. If you do it in Mexico, it's about a $5,000 procedure. And frankly, that's where I had mine, because I didn't want to jump through the insurance hoops. And when the type of surgery I was having, it wasn't that difficult to do. And I found a very good surgeon that was willing to do it for under $5,000 over in Mexico, and I just went over there and made it happen. So that's part one of it, is to realize that if you're doing it in the United States and you're using insurance, you've got about a 6-month process. They're going to put you through a whole bunch of weekly classes, support groups, a bunch of other hoops, plus the low-calorie diets. What's particularly frustrating is how many people probably wouldn't need it if they would get introduced to low-carb or carnivore as a way of losing weight. I mean, frankly, what's really interesting was there is a diet that's very specific to anybody that's having bariatric surgery. They need to shrink your fatty liver, and they put you on a low-carb, keto-like diet for 2 weeks prior to the surgery. And when I got on that diet, I lost about 15 pounds going into the surgery. And I was so amazed by those results, I almost didn't have the surgery. If they didn't have my cash, if I wasn't already signed up, if I already didn't have my plane tickets, I may have just blown it off and just said, the heck with it, I'm going to stick to this diet. Because I liked it, and I was losing weight on it pretty rapidly. Alas, I didn't know it at the time, but that's what it was. It was a low-carb diet, and it shrinks the liver size. And please stick to that diet, because you do not want to have fatty liver when you're having any type of bariatric surgery, because the fatty liver pushes down on the stomach, has to be moved out of the way. It creates all sorts of complications. So pay very strong attention to the reduction diet before the surgery. Just a little helpful word of advice. Now, what type of surgery should you opt for? And there's several different options. One of the most popular that is still out there is called the gastric bypass surgery, where they cut out 70% of your stomach and they take the lower intestine, attach that to the stomach opening. And the gastric bypass does two things. One, it reduces the amount of food that you can eat, but it also takes food, it bypasses the upper part of the intestine, which reduces the amount of calories the body can absorb. The problem with that is it creates chronic malabsorption issues, and you're going to be stuck with them the rest of your life. So you're going to have to take supplements. Another problem with it is it often creates some embarrassing problems with pooping unexpectedly. And often happens if you eat the wrong food, you're not paying attention, etc. And it creates ongoing embarrassment for almost everybody at some point who's had that type of surgery. Now, when people were doing these gastric bypass surgeries, which is really the first type of bariatric surgery, there were some people that were so morbidly obese, it was so dangerous for them that they only did the stomach reduction. It was called a vertical sleeve surgery. And they noticed that they were getting almost the same results as they were with the gastric bypass. So they just basically quit doing the gastric bypass, just started doing the vertical sleeve. And that means that you're going to get 70 to 80% of your stomach permanently cut out. And instead of having a regular stomach that holds food, you're going to have a pouch. And liquids have a tendency to go very quickly through them, and food doesn't stay in there as long. So it does create some absorption issues, particularly if you're taking something like PPIs, the proton pump inhibitor type drugs like Prilosec and others, because food is not, the first step of digestion is your mouth, chewing it up. It goes into your stomach. Some of the nutrients are chewed up by the stomach acid, and the longer it's in your stomach, the better as far as food absorption is concerned. But because you've lost so much of your stomach, you're just not quite absorbing all the nutrients that you would normally for somebody with a normal stomach. So, but there are some advantages to it. A lot of the hunger signaling hormones are located in your stomach. It's amazing how many people come off their diabetes medicine. They quit taking insulin even before they start losing significant amounts of weight after bariatric surgery, because of the hormonal changes that come from having 70% of your stomach cut out. So if you are a type 2 diabetic who's using insulin, etc., please monitor your blood glucose very carefully and work with your doctor as far as figuring out what's going to happen with your meds, because they're going to change a lot. Now, speaking of meds, when you have either the bypass or the vertical sleeve surgery, realize that medicine is going to absorb differently. So, for instance, when I went and had that surgery done, there's a couple of medications I had that were time release. Well, they no longer worked the same way that they used to. It was pretty darn noticeable, and I had to switch to breaking up the dosage and taking it over time, because they just weren't staying in my stomach anymore. I didn't have any stomach for them to stay in. So I would drink them down with water, and it would automatically go into my upper intestines, and they weren't being absorbed correctly. So realize that if you're on any type of long-term medication that you're taking orally, there's going to be changes that are going to happen following bariatric surgery. Always happens, so just be aware of it. It's going to be different. Along those same lines, your relationship to alcohol is going to change. You're not allowed or not supposed to drink alcohol for months following the surgery, and they highly recommend you don't take it at all, because there's a lot of people that become alcoholics after they've had bariatric surgery. I noticed I had a very serious change with my relationship to alcohol, because what happened is normally when I'd have a drink, it would be absorbed in the stomach, and I could feel it, and I knew what my limits were. But all of a sudden, when I started drinking again after having bariatric surgery, it would go right through the stomach, right into the intestines, where it got absorbed differently. And what happened over time is my tolerance went up, because I would have a drink, I wouldn't feel anything. Even though it was in my system, it was being absorbed very differently. And as a result, I would have like 3 drinks to what I would normally have 1, and all of a sudden my tolerance is through the roof, and it created serious problems. So it just became easier for me not to drink at all than it was trying to regulate that. So be aware, your relationship with alcohol is going to change. Your relationship with your medications is going to change after any type of permanent changes to your stomach. Then there's another type of bariatric surgery that are not as popular, but they do exist. And those are temporary restrictive types of bariatric surgeries, things like bands or putting in a balloon and basically reducing the overall size of the stomach. And the idea is to create a short-term tool to help people start to lose the weight, and hopefully they can begin eating fewer calories down the road. This is the one that Chris Christie used famously, and it did not work for him, and it doesn't work for many people, because they pretty much quickly regain the weight once the restriction is taken off, because frankly it is darn difficult to learn how to eat properly utilizing that tool. But, it's there, it's an option. Some people use it, some people don't. Now, what can you learn, or why should you avoid it? Now, look, the bypass surgery is the most cumbersome. It creates the most side effects. It creates the most malabsorption issues and creates, serious issues with health. I mean, when you don't have chronic magnesium deficiencies because your body can't absorb it anymore, you got a problem. So these are issues that you need to consider before you have something pretty drastic. But look, morbid obesity, extreme morbid obesity, is a killer too. So you got to balance those things out. With the vertical sleeve surgery, you've got other issues. Keep that in mind. But why don't you just consider going keto, low carb on the front end? I really wish I'd known about that before I had the surgery. If I'd done that for a few months beforehand and realized just frankly how easy it was and how much weight you could lose, I would have just stuck to that. Now, at some point, usually about 3 to 5 years after having bariatric surgery, most people that have had bariatric surgery are going to regain some, if not all, of their weight back. That's a sad reality. And there's a number of theories as to why that happens. Part of it is because people just don't change the eating habits, or they get lax, they start getting stressed, life happens. The same things that basically caused us to gain weight in the first place start to creep back up again. And it's pretty rare for somebody to keep all the weight off or even lose more weight after having the surgery and their initial weight loss. So, and thankfully for me, I had the surgery. 2 years later, I discovered low carb, lost even more weight. 5 years after that, I discovered carnivore, lost even more weight, got even healthier. Was able to get off all my medications following going carnivore. So there's other dietary approaches that you just may not have given a real serious shake, and they are better than having bariatric surgery. They're not permanent, they don't cost you any money, they're only going to make you stronger if you do them, but not everybody's willing to try it, so I understand, but realize that there's downsides to everything. So if you are trying to lose weight using the bariatric surgery method, keep in mind that you've also got one other problem, and that is loose skin. Virtually everybody I know that has gone through rapid weight loss, particularly if you're older, you're going to end up at the end of the day with a lot of loose skin. And some of it's going to be able to shrink up over time. So give it at least a year to see where you are following the surgery and where you are with the skin. The better your diet, the more protein you have, the better your skin is going to be. Basically, the healthier you make your skin through diet, the better you're going to be. If you start doing weight training, even better, because you're going to be able to bulk up some of that loose skin with muscle underneath it, and it won't be quite as noticeable. So that's always a plus too. So there's a couple of techniques that you can do. Trying to throw in intermittent fasting, in the process called autophagy, which is where the body eats itself or gets rid of not necessary skin cells in the body, might help a little bit as far as loose skin. But most people I know at some point really have to consider having this loose skin surgery. I'm like a lot of folks. Thankfully, I am in my 60s, and my significant other doesn't care that I've got loose skin. I've thought about it. I was about ready to have it done in 2020, and there was a bit of a worldwide national emergency when it came to hospitals and stuff like that happened in 2020, so I didn't get a chance to get it done. And I got into another relationship, and she doesn't care, so frankly, I haven't really thought about it, but I might at some point go ahead and have the loose skin removed. It kind of bugs me a little bit, but not that much. So those are some considerations if you're thinking about having bariatric surgery that you might want to think about. Figure out what type you want. realized that the gastric bypass, which probably is the most successful, but also has the most side effects. Vertical sleeve surgery has its own side effects, particularly when it comes to medications and alcohol. And any of the type of temporary types of bariatric surgery, the banding or the balloons, etc., the results are very temporary. Almost all of the people that have bariatric surgery at some point regain a good hunk of the weight, so you really do have to pay attention to the diet. Remember, bariatric surgery is a tool, not a magic wand. It is not going to cause you to lose weight automatically. You still have to work the program, even though you've got this tremendous tool to help you lose weight quickly. For some people, I mean, look, the health dangers of being morbidly obese outweigh any of the downsides, and you want to have the bariatric surgery. I get it. And, please, don't let me dissuade you. I'm just giving you real cautions from my own experience and what I've talked to others about. So keep those in mind as you're trying to make this decision. Seriously, be looking at low carb and carnivore now going into it. It will only make you healthier. I mean, if you're going to have bariatric surgery, you want to go into it like any other elective surgery. You want to be as healthy as you possibly can be. So do as much walking, exercise, and get the best protein you can into your system for as long as you can going into it, because that's just only going to help you heal faster and get over it. Because, frankly, it's not comfortable, to have anybody cutting into you. So I hope you can avoid it. If you can't, pick the thing that's going to work the best for you. Realize that there's real life consequences that come from this, and it is not a magic wand. It is a tool. This is Kirk, the Bariatric Carnivore. If you like this message, if you want to hear more like it, I try to put out about one every Tuesday and one on Thursday. If you have any comments about this or any questions, please leave them in the comment field below. If you like this message, please hit the like and subscribe button. That helps me grow this channel and helps me in. Please, if you got any topics or issues that you want to discuss, please let me know in the comment field below. I will be glad to consider it. I talk mostly about bariatric surgery, carnivore, keto, low carb eating, and also how to get you out of the healthcare system, because that is a real passion of mine. So these are the areas that we try to cover on this channel. This is Kirk, the Bariatric Carnivore. I will talk to you soon.